granniopteryx, she knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. President Trump is visiting Britain at the moment, and of course Sadiq Khan has written a letter welcoming him to the country, in more or less the same way as he welcomed Donald Trump to Britain in 2016, I think it was, with this fine example of a British welcome. This was, what day? 2018. Plans to fly a giant inflatable depicting Donald Trump as a baby over London during the US president's visit have sparked an online row. That is pretty disgraceful, and that's Sadiq Khan. He didn't organise this, by the way, but he did allow it. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has given permission for the helium-filled 6-metre high balloon, that's nearly 20 feet, to fly. Some people on social media have welcomed the Blint protest, while others have described it as juvenile and disrespectful. And yes, that's what it is. It's juvenile and disrespectful. He's a guest in our house, a visitor to our country. You don't do that to a visitor. So this is the same Sadiq Khan who allowed that blimp to fly as a greeting to Donald Trump, who has written this letter, which is basically his version of the blimp. And I'm going to go through that with you. Okay, I'm Granniopteryx. Please like this video, please share it, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to make a financial contribution, it's really handy. Occasionally I buy new equipment, and I certainly have 2 horses to look after. And as somebody once said, can you make a small fortune out of owning a horse? Well, you can, but only if you have a big fortune to start with. Right, let's get on with this letter. Okay, so let's start. Sadiq Khan starts his letter by conflating the march last Saturday, what's known as the Tommy Robinson March, the Free Speech March, the Unite the Kingdom March. Yeah, but it's always the far right march to The Guardian and its readers and people like Sadiq Khan. And he's conflated that with Trump's visit because, yeah, why not? After the far right's march on our streets, the far right marched on London streets, I've rarely felt as safe as I felt when I was on that march. And there were all these people around. The potential for a violent riot is always there when you have a large group of people, especially when you've got provocateurs turning up at odd parts of access in the shape of Stand Up to Hate, which is just create some more hate. Yeah, that's another matter. I've rarely felt so safe, and it was good humoured, and there was plenty of fun and some dressing up, and it was lovely. It was a Unite the Kingdom march because there were all sorts of people there, united in their one desire to let the government know that, well, they're mad as hell and they're not taking it anymore, to quote a film with Peter Finch in it. What's it called? News something, broadcast something, I don't remember. Okay. Right, these are dark times, it says here. I'd say that Unite the Kingdom march was as an example of a candle fighting the dark. But of course, he won't see it like that. These are dark times, but those who seek to divide us will not win. And he is one of the most divisive or dividing people in this entire country. He will choose any subject and turn it into a race issue. And yes, that Unite the Kingdom march was a demonstration of people standing up against those who would seek to divide us. The capital's soul and spirit are as inclusive and optimistic as ever. And then they say here, Sadiq Khan is the Mayor of London, just in case you don't remember. It says here, something in our country changed at the weekend. Like cities across the UK, London has seen protests organised by the far right before, but this felt different. Over 100,000 people filled the capital. Well, Sadiq Khan should know how many people there were, and there were more than 100,000. So that started off with a lie to begin with. But let's have a look at this. That means I made a note here. So let me just find what note it was. Here we are. This was an article in The Guardian. Far-right London rally sees record crowds and violent clashes with police. And yet, as I've pointed out in another video, Notting Hill Carnival, there were something like further north than 520 arrests during the Notting Hill Carnival. There were several stabbings and there were, I remember, 5 sexual assaults. None of that there. Now, I do believe there was a confrontation or two at the fringes. I didn't see anything, but there are photos, so there must have been something. But it was not... The violent clashes was obviously a minuscule part of it. And you never see headlines like Notting Hill Carnival sees record crowds and violent clashes. They usually say sees record crowds, and then underneath, somewhere at the bottom, something like there were some arrests. It wouldn't be part of the headline. And here we've got more than 110,000 people join Tommy Robinson. I did take a screenshot of one helicopter thing. I think I'll put it in here just to show you. And if you think that's 110,000, well, feel free to say so in the comments. More than 110,000 people have taken part in a far-right street protest organised. It wasn't even a street protest. It was a rally. It was a quiet march through London. And then at the end, there was a meeting, speeches, songs, I don't know. I couldn't get near enough to the stage to tell you exactly what was going on there. And it says it was thought to be the largest nationalist event in decades. But it wasn't a nationalist event. It was an event of people who were worried about freedom of speech and people who were worried about the migrant boats and people who are just worried about this government, which is startlingly incompetent. Okay, tens of thousands of them marched peacefully. Have you noticed this? Look, 100,000 people fill the capital. Tens of thousands of them marched peacefully. He didn't say us, did he? He says he's British and those people are British. Why didn't he say us? No, it was them. Marched peacefully, but some violently attacked the police officers tasked with keeping Londoners safe. Well, do police officers keep Londoners safe? I want to show you what happens to at least one group of Londoners. Sadiq Khan admits Jews living in fear, and then he claims the police are doing a good job. Well, get this straight. Either they're living in fear or the police are doing a good job. It's not both.
Do you feel safe living in Britain as a Jew?
No, definitely not.
Do you think that the British government and Sadiq Khan are doing enough for the Jews of London?
They are scared of the others. And
notice how she says they're scared of the others. Even she wouldn't say it's mostly Muslims. She wouldn't say that. It is mostly Muslims. And I've showed in other videos, I've showed you that video of a group of Muslims from Bradford driving through Golders Green, shouting to the local population. It was a Saturday, so there were lots of people walking to or from the synagogue or whatever, shouting that the Muslims, should be raping Jewish daughters to send a message to the Jewish population. And the police have done nothing. There's videos of them saying that. Clear incitement and hate speech or whatever, and racial speech, or I don't know. I mean, they think of new names for this all the time. And the police have the videos and not enough evidence. They drop the case. And then there's this. The Prime Minister professes himself to be appalled when a police officer there said to this guy, I think he's some sort of a provocateur, but that's not the point. He's walking near one of these marches. He's wearing a skull cap, and this police officer says to him, something like, I see you are visibly Jewish. Well, I'm going to have to arrest you because you're provoking all those people on the march. Oh, Gideon Falter. Yeah. I think Gideon Falter was deliberately putting himself in that position, but that's neither here nor there. Anyone should be able to walk through any street in Britain, and particularly in London, you might say, dressed in specifics that might mark you out as a certain group, like a skull cap for a Jew, or a turban, or whatever it's called for Sikhs, and not be told they are visibly of this ethnicity and so are arrestable. Okay. And are the police doing a good job? Well, they did a pretty good job of arresting Graham Linehan, who was arrested off the plane because somebody had made a complaint that he'd been a bit rude about trans people. So are the police doing a good job? I would venture to suggest no. And then Sadiq Khan says, Elon Musk tried to rally protesters against our democracy, telling them to fight back or you die. I want to point out that Elon Musk is the person who has given us free speech in this country. It's certainly not the government that's been helping us say what we think. And until Elon Musk got Twitter, neither was Twitter any help to us. It's Elon Musk that's given us that voice. And he said, tried to rally protesters against our democracy, telling them to fight back or die. That's what he says is bad about Elon Musk. And then in 2 paragraphs later, for our leaders, silence is no longer enough. The time has come to stand up and say, this is not who we are. So fight back or die is the same as saying stand up and say. So in 2 paragraphs later, that's what Sadiq Khan is telling people to do. And then he criticises Elon Musk for saying the same thing. The scenes we saw didn't come from nowhere. Oh, that's a terrible sentence. That is such bad construction. The scenes we saw came from somewhere is clearer and more direct, Mr. Khan. He's a sir now, isn't he? Oh, God, how have the mighty fallen? For far too long, our politicians and pundits have refused to condemn the rising tide of hatred in this country. The rising tide of hatred. Let's just get back to this, should we?
I wear a kippah on my head, and very often it's in my pocket because I feel that it's not safe.
Here's a Jewish man afraid to wear his skull cap in public now. That's the rising tide of hatred. The sound's not that good. I'm not going to play this anymore. But it says here, what's this? GB News. Jewish people feel unsafe in London and urge Sadiq Khan to do more. And all Sadiq Khan can do is say, our pundits and politicians, of which he is one, have refused to condemn the rising tide of hatred, instead choosing to dabble in dog whistle politics. Isn't that what he's doing? And dangerous rhetoric themselves. It says here, many minority Londoners have expressed fear and millions more in the capital and across the country are horrified. Many minority Londoners have expressed fear. A lot of Muslims go about saying they're afraid. Yeah, Sadiq Khan says he's afraid. That's a load of nonsense, and he knows it. They're just whipping up the fear among themselves. The people who really are frightened, the Jews, and there are other minorities, the Hindus, who are being bullied by Muslims. They're not being listened to. It's only people like Sadiq Khan, Muslims, when they say they're frightened. And Sadiq Khan makes much of that. The time has come to stand up and say, that's not who we are. We must unite to take on the reactionary populists and nativists. Hang on, just a minute. I did mark this out. I marked out the cliches in grey. So whenever there's a cliche, we're going to get grey, and I'm going to put a bell there as well. Okay, so one cliche, to dabble in dog whistle politics. The next one, unite to take on the reactionary populists and nativists. That's not Sadiq Khan's language. He got somebody to write this speech for him, for sure. And he says, and a growing distrust of political and media institutions. Goodness me, are we distrustful of media and political institutions? Are we now? Gosh, I wonder why. Maybe it's because our political institutions lie to us all the time, and the media says that there are 100,000 people on the Unite the Kingdom march, when it's so blatantly obvious that there's at least 5 times that many people. Okay. And President Donald Trump and his coterie. A coterie is a closed group, by the way, so that's a disparaging term, have perhaps done the most to fan the flames. And then he comes up with a set of lies. President deliberately used xenophobia, racism and otherness as an electoral tactic. He hasn't. Introducing a travel ban on a number of Muslim majority countries. Yes, at a time when there was some, how would you say, problems with certain people from certain Muslim countries getting into America and causing trouble. And praising white nationalists in Charlottesville, Virginia, and he definitely, absolutely did not. And the Democratic Party kept on pushing that, a straight out lie, so disrespectful of their audience that they will keep repeating the same lie again and again, even after it's long been pointed out that that's a lie. 6 years later, the tactics we see from today's White House, scapegoating minorities, illegally deport. Now, I've not noticed that Trump has ever scapegoated a minority. Illegally deporting US citizens. Yep, some people from migrant groups have been deported when they shouldn't have been deported. That's hardly the same as illegally deporting US citizens, and they've subject to review have been let back. Very unfortunate for these people, but when you've got a large scale operation like this going, that sort of thing is bound to happen. Deploying the military to the streets of diverse cities. Now, when you're saying diverse cities, what you should mean is a lot of different cities. But in fact, what he means, obviously, by diverse is something I pointed out before. You say diverse nowadays when you're too mealy-mouthed to say cities with a high non-white ethnic population. So Muslims, again, but he says diverse cities, which is the wrong use of the word, and it's another cliche. I understand the UK the government's all right, it's got to make nice to Donald Trump, but we have to be a critical friend and speak truth to power. Again, another cliche. And we must show President Trump the right way. So he gives a whole list of things that we should tell President Trump he should do. Now, President Trump is President of America. This may not have occurred to Sadiq Khan. And he will do what he sees is right for America. He doesn't need us telling him what to do. And I think that Sadiq Khan is being a bit rude. And being clear that we reject the politics of fear and division. Ding, yeah. And then he says, again, one of those other lies, and putting pressure on him to do much more to end Israel's horrific onslaught on Gaza, as only he has the power to bring Israel's brazen and repeated violations of international law to an end. Let's just hear what Andrew Fox, an ex-British Army officer, has said about that. He calls it Israel derangement syndrome and says that Hamas PR has made the world lose its mind. And then he says, Israel's been singled out, demonized, and judged by standards applying to no one else. And then he says, it must be stated, Israel has done very little legally wrong in Gaza. The IDF has undertaken unprecedented measures to protect civilians, warning leaflets, phone calls, text messages, humanitarian corridors, and pauses in fighting. There's no precedent in modern warfare for this level of effort, especially in a combat environment like Gaza. The starvation narrative is the most grotesque example. UN officials claim a famine stalks Gaza, yet food aid continues to flow in daily. Where Israeli soldiers have committed crimes, they are sporadic rather than systematic. Every army has bad actors. The difference is that Israel investigates and prosecutes. The double standard is staggering. And this is from a British soldier. So Sadiq Khan coming out with this, it's just like his accusation that Trump had praised Nazis in Charlottesville. It's the same thing. He's found a convenient lie and he's sticking to it. And then he says we've got to tell Trump to stop doing down our great capital city, a global success story. Yeah, there are parts of London that are definitely not a global success story. And he says record numbers of Americans are making London their home. That surprised me, so I looked it up and I discovered, record numbers is not really, record in the sense that there's more now than there were before. And they are all very rich people. because the very rich areas of London are quite nice. But they're not your average worker. It's not like floods of Americans are dashing to Britain, the way he makes it sound. They are very rich people who will be very insulated from the problems we've got in this country right now, and who will leave as soon as they just get fed up with the novelty. The president and his supporters often talk about the importance of free speech, painting a picture of Britain as a dystopian society where repression means our rights are under threat. I noticed there's an old video of mine which has suddenly started reviving. A few people have found it again. And it was, just a minute, I'll tell you, maybe I'll leave a link in the description. Yeah, I put it out on November the 13th, 2019. And it's called UK Police Arrest British Blogger for Criticising Muslims. Sadiq Khan sent a detachment of Metropolitan Police, the racism detachment, to this guy in the Midlands. I don't know quite where he is, but that's an area around Birmingham, Stoke, that sort of area. They found who he was and they went there and arrested him because he said he didn't like Sadiq Khan. That was basically it. I'll leave a link to that and then you can make out for yourself. And this was Sadiq Khan 6 years ago. And he is saying, oh, no such thing as repression here. And then, of course, there's the famous Graham Linehan arrest. Off a plane, 5 armed police. Nothing could be further from the truth. Oh, for goodness sake, that's just as a straight flat out lie, like his lie about Charlottesville. This week, I'm sure many Londoners will speak up to tell President Trump and his followers that we cannot be divided by those who seek to sow fear. And it's Sadiq Khan who is seeking to sow fear. And we can't be divided by him, as we've seen in the freedom in the Unite the Kingdom rally only last week. We're determined for our city to stand strong as a bastion against hate and shine bright as a beacon of hope. We see strength in our diversity and progressive principles. Well, that's Sadiq Khan. It's a letter replete with inaccuracies, flat out lies, cliches and hypocrisy. Not bad, not bad. That's a pretty good compression of a whole lot of very unpleasant characteristics, all in one letter, which The Guardian, of course, was very proud to print. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.